First of all, I wanted two questions. How did you document yourself for that movie? Because it's a very special period of American history. And why were you attracted to that period of history? Has it an impact on nowadays, 11 September or 6th of January?
Yeah, so there is a lot of research that came into place in preparation for this film, mainly paper-based. I did research and readings for a couple years, very intensely, from war journals to political theory and of all wars, and in specific Civil War, to general figures, and so I did all of that, a lot of research to just get to the core of of what it meant to be in a war with other Americans. So in the Secession War,
it was easy to catch that documentation.
Yeah, I mean there's access to it. There's a lot of literature around it. It's a very alive, topic in America nowadays. I saw even through my documentaries how some of the sentiments, they stem from the echo from the Civil War are still present today. Some of them are very explicit in the film. The nationalization of Christianity, or the sovereignty of Christianity. That is a debate that is very, very pertinent today. Today, some political factions are talking about going back to the supreme law of the country, the Bible. And this is starting to answer the other question, the parallelisms in today and the past. Or
the attraction.
The good guy, bad guy, the good and evil. Today, you could open, and you probably do by profession, you open newspapers, you read newspapers in America, especially some of the most conservative, you always read some the codified messages. Migrant causes trouble, any kind of trouble in liberal city. This is really the equation. My migrant causes issues in a liberal city. Venezuelan harassed woman in New York City. Mexicans kill somebody in Los Angeles. All the time, every day. So again, trying to bring back the idea of right or wrong. So, Machiavellian means the end it means by the end, like there is an evil that has to be eradicated, no matter how. So this is coming back, and this is what, In God We Trust was born during the Civil War, because it was a message of unity for this disjointed troops, disjointed union who didn't know what they were fighting for. So yes, the parallelism is there, and that's why, going back to a time where it all started for America, with some of the sentiments are still alive today. And they're actually premonitory. They brought us through 9/11 for sure. They brought us through January 6th. But also they're premonition to what's about to happen with the new election. So yes, the parallelism is very clear in my mind.
You lived in the South for
14 years. 14 years in Texas,
yeah. Do you understand why the Civil War is still so prevalent there? I mean, I read that last week there were two schools in Virginia that are going back to the original name, that named after General Robert E. Lee and stuff like that. So why is that still so alive?
It is correct. There has been, this is a little bit of the north-south diatribe that you find in other countries, like my own country of origin. There is the sense that an injustice has been made from mainstream America, the powerful America, to the ones who were just simply guilty of relying on traditional core values. For example, free labor was the foundation of the southern economy, and the Northeast already were enjoying the fruits of capitalism, right? The insurance company and the banking system, and it was already thriving in America. Land was already expensive, and therefore skyscrapers were being born in the South. We're still enjoying the benefits of free labor, right? Slavery. So they felt that in the South there's still that resentment of the fact that those who defended a culture an economy and the wealth of the South being eradicated, and even they want to eliminate even memories of the Confederate flag, the statues of the most prestigious generals, and people reacted strongly to it. But there is, again, the sentiment of the sovereignty of a culture that talks to us about the binary family, a man and a woman, as a foundation of America. The monotheist religion, the Christian God, and all of that, whiteness, national identity, which is, when you hear those two words, it's something that makes you always shake. National identity as this kind of the triad that is necessary to unify America. So people are just want to go back to that. So in the South, the sentiment is very alive yeah.
There's a sequence that I like very much is when the older soldier explained to young one that he might have gold on that little piece of rock. So that land at the time was completely unexplored, but you put your finger on the value of the land, the capitalism. How did you come to that fabulous sequence?
Yeah, so the film is set in 1862, which is the year of where the gold rush in Montana started. Montana was not a U.S. territory, it was not even a state, it was Dakota territory. And now, historical truth, the government of the United States started negotiating with the Dakota governor about how to put their hands into the gold resources, and they were in exchange they were going to give him some Native American land. So that is a prelude to an American Indian War from 1875, so a decade, more than a decade later. So already you could see how the U.S. government started sending forces, political, military, to put their hands on wealth. So that's for sure, it's the ruthlessness of that, the capitalist culture kicking in for sure, and that's the basis of it. But I put it back into, I always like to go back into the core, like of the humanity of it, like this hope that the resources will make, them, enjoy life, and then, there's always something bigger than that we could go to.
Why are you interested in telling USA stories, and how you get there?
So I got to the U.S. for love, and I think maybe the way is the most romanticized way of answering that question, so that I don't say the same things over and over, is that this film kind of is a little bit of a metaphor for my own path. A life path. I had a moment of calm, being European, living in Italy, living in Spain, very predictable life, routine life, enjoying, the calmness of every day, which, as a taste of the food. And then all of a sudden, because of love, I go to America. I don't speak the language. 10 months later, there's 9/11, and I see the division, the racial diatribes. I'm a migrant because I'm there during 9/11 trying to apply for a green card. I'm ostracized. So I see all that. All of a sudden, it's like the battle. All of a sudden, there's something very frightening happening. I was many times put in a room and questioned about my motives of being in America. So America's at war. We're going to create enemies out of everybody. We're going to bring down. So, and then there's the rest. The third part of my life still continues today, but the echo of that frightening moment, it still changed me forever. It still resonates. It still look over your shoulder and still worried about everything that could happen in America. So I still believe that every political friction could cause something very violent, because I've seen it, I've experienced it, and so that's why I'm making movies in America, just because things for me have changed forever. That calm life, the status quo in America can get shattered in a second, and I'm there, and because I am an observer, I just continue to tell stories about what I see.
Can I add one more? After more than a decade doing documentaries, you choose a fiction for this one. Why?
Yeah, because fiction gave me the freedom to create my own ellipses and to go and draw parallelisms in past and present, and to do a discourse that could be a stretch, right? So I had that freedom that I don't have to abide by the strict unwritten rules of documentary, for which if you again digress towards the past, then you're not into a truth teller anymore. You're a manipulator, but which again it's another story. So fiction gave me the freedom to actually digress and maybe become from the present moment go to history and back. So it's a conscious choice to be in this kind of realm.
Animals are very present in your movie, above all in the beginning with the wolves. It's a fright. I didn't remember how many minutes is that sequence. 5?
I don't remember either. A few minutes.
Yes, and then there is a picture when we see a horse and a man looking. So what's the importance of animals, nature, maybe something else between man and
I
the
could
rest?
say that the film begins from the end. Also, that is filmed in the end, we see snow melting. So the film kind of starts from the late fall, gets into the winter. We see that, it's shot chronologically. So the film kind of begins on the end, that something becomes very primordial, very violent. In the end, there is, living species eating flesh. And, which, when you're there filming, since this is a real scene, it has a smell, it carries a smell as well of death or rotten flesh. So, and then you see all the time, so that's how the film begins, and then you see this kind of, the animals become more and more present, they become almost, they face to face with humans. In the end they're abandoned or in the middle of human death. So there is a little bit of the kind of parable in a way of this kind of going back to something very very animalesque, very primordial, that in the end animals eating animals out of it's a cycle of nature. It's survival, and but man killing man is something that could be clearly avoided by because we are gifted with thought, and we're gifted with integrity and morality. We're gifted with other ways of avoiding that, becoming just a dog existence. So there is something there about man and humans always being near, but not quite, because in the end we are being inhumane in our way of treating other humans. So in the end there is a live war scared between among human death. So there is always this kind of being close, but not quite the same.
The interesting thing about that scene in the beginning with the wolves is that the animal that they're killing is pregnant.
Yes.
And you see the fetus being eaten as well. It wasn't quite clear from the film whether you are a realist or a romantic, because there's that kind of horrific beauty of nature that's in the film as well, and the indifference of nature, because anything that the people do in the film, nature doesn't care.
It's true. First, that came off as a total surprise, because we were near Canada, we're in a vast land where we knew there were about 28 wolves. So that was a long process of finally having access to there. And there's a man who found a dead deer in the street, in the road. So by placing that deer, we waited until about 4 wolves showed up. So it's just me, basically, me filming with a man who, armed with a stick in case something happened. But he knows the area, he knew the wolves. That the hierarchy and a presence of a man is nothing to them unless you interfere with the feeding process. So later did we know that the wolf. I didn't realize that the deer was pregnant because I was filming with a small monitor, sitting still, and you could see from that I moved only once, try to get closer, but that was that. And then all of a sudden, I realized that in the editing, and I felt like how crazy that this is brought into the discourse of the film by coincidence. So in a way, it's true. If in a way, again, that is like how I film. If you are patient enough, if you tolerate the wait, what appears to be nothing, what appears to be boring, because we have to fast forward to something that is digestible. Like in war, you need to fast forward to the combat. In life, you have to fast forward to action. But if you wait long enough, and if you pause a little bit, there is always something absolutely incredible, sometimes frightening, but definitely meaningful, that it just happens, because this cannot be a coincidence, and I'm able to capture things within my, throughout my filmography that are just absolutely surprising, like this, like a pregnant deer being eaten by a pack of wolves.
Can you say a few words about the choice of the actors, because the faces, you work a lot with the faces, and they are absolutely magnificent. And am I wrong, or your character on the other side is on the film?
So it's the character of Stop the Pounding Heart. It's the father with a big, bearded man, and the two boys. In the beginning, they're introduced as Noah and Judah, their real names, and they're little boys in Stop the Pounding Heart. The father is the patriarch of the family. So they are back working with me and bringing, and that they are the ones among all of them clearly bringing their own stories into it. They carry the Christian, they carry the Christianity definitely into the debate, for sure, through the kids, and the kids talks about my father will explain it. So there is a legacy here. There's a legacy of that way of thinking, that philosophy, that we cannot put into question in a minute here. This is a generational baggage that we have. That's basically what the kid. What was interesting for me, the young boy Noah was saying, this is a generational legacy of talking about God here, Christianity. We cannot put it into question in a minute. And a little bit that ties even into the question, why there's a part of America, why is the South still angry? Because they're claiming that the sovereignty of something that has been there, and you're going to put it into question. So there is something quite I don't know, there is something very political in that as well. It's not just spiritual, it's a political debate that goes on.
Did you train them? Because I thought that they are, they are natural actors. They are not professional.
No, two of them, among the four main ones, two of them are colleagues, so artists, filmmakers. One was an actor. He acted on my first short film, the main character with the red hair. Acted in my first short film, student short, more than 20 years ago. And he's a journalist and a historian by profession right now, and then the rest are non-professional. So no, I do not train them. They rely on their own ability to perform, but the performance of the self has always been, a quality that I look for when in all my work. That's my job, to identify people who are able to, to really not to identify with the characters, but the character becomes them. So obviously those who succeed in the process are those who are then featured in the film.
I think in the end of the movie, if I remember well, in memory of Roberto, I'll always love you.
Yeah, so...
Maybe I'm too indiscreet?
No, the list started with my first film with one of my best friends who acted in the film, and then years have passed, and for me that's it's not Roberto, but it's Roberto says I will always love you. The last two are my parents, who were just in the succession. My parents just passed away. My mom just passed away just a few months ago. No, it's not indiscreet. It's just that's a reminder. First, it's a reminder of people were with me. As a it's kind of Yeah, it's the aging process. As I continue to make films, that list in the end of the credits can expand. It's just it's a sign that I'm getting old and that I'm getting maybe a little lonelier. Now that I'm an orphan of parents, but it's just a reminder that there's always your life. And the cinema for me, it's a good. It's always worked on time. We're here talking about timing and pertinence of the present, reference to the past, and I think that's just a little romantic way of thinking that the cinema always makes a reference to history.
You still have the Italian accent, am I wrong?
I don't think,
A little bit.
I stopped fighting against it. I stopped. And when I speak Italian, I stopped fighting against my regional accent. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not why to fight.
No, sure. It's there's a funny thing that now that we're talking about the credits, the memory of in memoriam, and my mom's the last in line to pass away, and my mom used to show me a recording device of herself and say, "You hear like how I don't have a regional accent? Yeah, good I am. You're always at it. Nobody can look down on you. It's just be status quo, be status quo." Be perfect. So she always told me, don't be regional, don't be little, be big, think big. So, and that's the fight. It's the fight not to be taken seriously in a way. It's,
The interesting thing is that all over the world, those regional accents are gaining importance again.
Yeah.
That fight is being won by regions.
Yeah.
So that the general accents are not that important anymore.
It is absolutely true, and I think that's why it's true, and that is happening in Italy too, and that's why I sometimes can relax and be, you have an Italian flair in my English and a regional
like
kind of countryside flair in my Italian, that's really my Italian accent, a little countryside.
What part of Italy is it?
The Marche, the Marches region in front of Croatia. There are no big towns around it. We sound Albanian sometimes when we speak. Yeah, so we are fringe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a
much.
lot.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you.
and congratulations for that